Populist rebellions are usually right about something. These are the words of Jonathan Haidt, the academic and writer and intellectual who hardly supports populism. But in this quote, populist rebellions are usually right about something, and I'm talking obviously specifically about perceived right-wing populism and the insurgency in recent weeks in America. Let's hear what Jonathan Haidt had to say about this insurrection and about the sentiments and emotions that may lie behind it. Whether you are a Trump supporter or virulently anti-Trump, this is an opinion you cannot afford to ignore. Have a listen. When you said the thing about the rigged voting machines and the more complex and largely regarded as unfounded assertions that are cited as motivation for the Capitol insurrection there. What I feel, Jonathan, is regardless of what they present, and I say they, regardless of what people that are protesting present as the reasons, and this happened and that happened and that, there is some legitimacy to what they are saying. Like, what if they were to say, look, we voted for Trump, and he sort of somehow emotionally seems to vibrate on something on the level that we understand, in spite of the fact that in terms of policy, there's very little to aid the sort of ordinary Americans' lives. You couldn't point to that many things, I'm sure, and but in electing Biden, we have brought to power a person who's going to appoint that dude who's works for the arms industry to work in defense. He's accepted all this lobbying money. So we feel very frustrated that democracy is deracinated from the interests of ordinary Americans. Now, the fact that that this is not the way that the argument is articulated, and it much more got the inflections of QAnon and anti-migration, shouldn't, I don't think, undermine the legitimacy of the emotion. And in fact, if you focus on the sort of the more baroque and absurd claims, then it releases us from the important question: what do we do about the fact that there is no new idea about how to organise a more fair, just society that isn't simply propagating the interests of the powerful and maintaining those interests?
Yeah. So I would agree that populist rebellions are usually right about something. In fact, something I say to my students is, not everybody is right. And there are some people who are truly bad. And if it's one person who believes something bizarre, there might be a mental illness issue. But if millions of people believe something, then they're almost surely right about something. Maybe not in the main thing they say, but they're not mentally ill. And they're usually right about something. In fact, this dictum is really, really helpful in marriage, in everything. If your spouse is mad at you for something and you're sure that she's wrong, well, she's probably right about something, even if she's not, even if you can prove she's wrong about one thing. So I think we have to ask how did Trump get elected despite his obvious incapacities and problems? Because, as you say, he rode this wave. He was able to articulate this, the contempt that the elite have for the working class. Certainly in my country, the elite, and I think this would be true in the UK, is to a large extent the exam passing class. The elite, since the 60s, in both of our countries, is based in large part on how well you did on an exam. So before then, it was based on who your father was. And that obviously is awful from a democratic perspective, but at least there were elites that were quite noble, that had a sense of noblesse oblige, that went into government service. So at least aristocracies, and you have a lot more, your country has a lot more experience than mine, but
How dare you?
At least aristocracies had certain virtues that they aimed for. And I might be romanticizing things, but
I think so. I think that those ideals functioned in the same way that sort of corporate language masks their agenda. I sense that just because of the way that aristocracies have behaved, although there is a degree of romanticism that I cannot help but find. I've been subject to so many royal weddings over the years that I'm somewhat affected.
Okay, but when our countries moved to using exams to decide who goes to the top schools. And then the top schools increasingly determine who is successful, not in every industry. In business, you don't have to have gone to a top school, but in journalism, I mean, journalism used to be like working class guys who would, be hard-nosed investigators smoking a cigar. And now they pretty much all went to an Ivy League school or Middlebury College or Haverford or some, elite liberal arts college. So our elites now are the ones who did best on the exams. And here I'm drawing from the columnist Ivan Krastev at the New York Times. He wrote this really brilliant column where he pointed out that the problem with this kind of meritocratic elite is that they deeply and truly believe that they earned it.
Wow.
Hey, I got the top score on the SAT or the A-levels or whatever it is. I deserve to be here. And therefore, they don't feel an obligation to the working class. So I think part of the reason that populism has exploded all over the West, and even in India and in Brazil and other countries, is because we have terrible elites. Not that they're bad people, but that the elites now really don't feel that connection. And this is in part, I think, why both the Labor Party elites, your well-educated labor leaders, and our well-educated Democrats have, they've really just lost connection to the working class, certainly the white working class.
That's spot on. That really resonates and makes sense, that there is no emotional or romantic connection or lived connection to this is what is important. And I can see how I've had to kind of necessarily for my own survival unpick the idea of my own merit or the validity of my own success, not from there is some sort of aspects of the philosophy, the 12-step philosophy, that I sort of credit with saving my life, I suppose, put plainly. That is because it's derived most latterly culturally from Christianity. There's quite a lot of, well, you guys was alcoholics and you should be dead in the gutter. There's like some of that stuff. It's written in the 1930s. It's all got that kind of stuff about it. But because there is this embrace of divinity alongside the rather Protestant, punishing, vengeful father stuff that's sort of at its patriarchal heart, and because of the Jungian influence, where Jung categorically said that the only way that an alcoholic or addict will overcome this condition is through some kind of religious experience, some religious transformation, and the ongoing support of a community. I feel that what's powerful about the 12 steps is that they might provide a model for personal transformation that might create a kind of, the same way as you just indicated that a cultural phenomenon like an exam passing class creates a sort of a separation and a sense of entitlement, that if a return to, inverted commas, spiritual values, perhaps particularly if it was through a sort of a secularized model, such as the 12 steps, could bring about a sufficient number of people that regarded the world differently, that regarded their individual identity as somewhat secondary, perhaps in a rather sort of, atavistic way, to the interest and importance of the tribe, parish, community.
Yeah. So let's be clear about what this divinity dimension is, because especially for your secular viewers and listeners, it may sound kind of weird or abstract. And so in chapter 9 of the happiness hypothesis, I talk about how social scientists find two universal dimensions of human societies. There's a horizontal dimension of closeness, and you can be close to someone or far from someone. And there's a vertical dimension of rank or hierarchy. Someone can be above you or you can be equal. And languages encode this. So if you speak French, it's tu versus vous for both dimensions. You use tu for someone who's close to you or below you. And English doesn't do that. We just say you. But our minds do it. So we found a linguistic trick, which is if it's up, we address them as, Mr. Smith, but if it's down, we address them by first name. Okay, so those two dimensions are clear. Everyone understands them. But what I found in studying ancient wisdom, in studying religions, in seeing the similarities across sacred works, is that there's a third dimension. So if you've got like X, Y, and Z, the Z dimension, people can rise or fall on this without becoming your boss or hierarchical. And so I really came to see this when I spent 3 months in Bhubaneswar, India, on the east coast of India in 1993, studying their whole psychology and of purity and pollution. And what I came to see is that Hindus, like Muslims and to some extent Orthodox Jews, there's a real conception of divinity, of God, and you have a relationship with God. But there's a conception that that to approach God, you have to purify yourself. You bathe. So in Hindus, there's a lot of bathing. Muslims, before they wash the hands, feet, face. So there's this widespread human notion that there is a God, he or it permeates everything, but sometimes we're closer to God, sometimes further. And it's generally put in vertical terms. And so I have a bunch of quotes here in the happiness hypothesis. I'll just say, oh yeah, like Ralph Waldo Emerson. So not coming from a religious perspective, he says, he who does a good deed is instantly ennobled. He who does a mean deed, mean or base, is by that action itself contracted. He who puts off impurity thereby puts on purity. If a man is at heart just, then insofar is he God. Okay, all right. That one didn't have explicitly vertical metaphors, but it's the idea of a dynamic. Our lives are dynamic, and we do things, we think things, and as we do that, we rise or fall. And so the angels are above us. The angels are sort of like human, but above us. And here are humans. And then below us, well, all the way down is the devil or demons. But a monster is human, but less than human, more on the demonic side. And so especially boundary crossers they really freak us out. But the cool thing for me was that the human mind does this all over the world, and most religions really incorporate it. But even me as a secular person, I felt it. And I didn't really have a name for it until I spent time in India. And
when did you feel it?
I felt, well, so I realized that there were certain things objects that I treated with a reverence for the physical thing. Like, some books that were just so enlightening. I just love them. And I would, like the physical book would be, I'd treat better, or record albums, LPs, oh my God, the Rolling Stones, 1980 or so, Tattoo You, the second side of Tattoo You is just the most gorgeous thing. And I have a reverence for it. But also having a sense that of just seeing things as just sort of elevated or degraded. Like you see, okay, so like right at the time, in the 90s, there was all this reality TV in which they would have generally poor or uneducated people yelling and screaming at each other over infidelity and hitting each other with chairs. And it was very entertaining and really degrading. So I had a language for that now, that certain experiences lift me up and others just, even though they're pleasurable in a way, they bring you down.
If you're enjoying this conversation, join me over at Luminary for the rest of our discussion and for all the latest episodes of Under the Skin. Go to luminarypodcast.com to start your free trial. I really hope I'll see you there. Thank you.